1. Welcome everyone. This is the introduction to lesson 1 in our digital advocacy fundamentals training program. We're going to go through the key concepts and themes to look out for in the different modules for lesson 1. I am Jesse Danzig. I'm joined by my colleague Tapanita Das for this intro. So the modules covered in this guide really are to help you with the foundational elements of your campaign. It's really about understanding why you're doing digital, what it takes, and getting those first initial strategic tools in place to get up and running. So you'll see the modules have a flow from going through some strategy questions and then actually into campaign design.
So the combined goals of these 4 modules are as follows. First, we are going to be talking about how you can choose a SMART objective for your campaign. This, as you will find out in a little bit, is incredibly important to the success of your campaign. Then we need to talk about what resources you need to run a successful digital program, both human resources and otherwise. Then we discuss how you approach power mapping from a digital perspective and who should feature in your power map. Then we talk about how to design a campaign, and we will be discussing some frameworks we use to do this. And then last, we will discuss how to construct key messages for your campaign. A lot of this falls under a 3-step foundation evaluation where we evaluate what the objective of your campaign is, what the purpose of this is, where we talk about whether digital media can indeed help you win, and then last, but often the most important, is the resource plan, which is what are the staffing commitments and responsibilities to execute a successful campaign.
And as Dee mentioned, we're huge fans of the SMART campaign planning, where you understand not only the nuances of digital, but more broadly, starting the foundational bedrock component of your campaign of a clear objective. It's specific, it's measurable, achievable, realistic, and time-bound. So what is that policy objective and goal that you're trying to achieve? That's the anchor point of any digital campaign. Next, once you have that, is understanding the purpose of digital. We also talk about this as how will digital help you win? And we talk about it in different frameworks of raising awareness to mobilizing the public, engaging key opinion leaders and decision makers, and then lastly is leveraging traditional media. So this again goes from your organizational objective to a clear strategy. And then that third piece of the resource planning, where you're not just saying, okay, great, and shuttling everything off to an unpaid intern, but looking to identify the understanding of clear resources and identifying who's doing what to actually make a program successful within your organization.
So creating a digital power map, which is module 2, is similar but not the same as creating an offline power map. We take you through some of the key points, which is how to find your decision makers online and what to do if they are not present in all of the platforms that you are working on. Next, we are talking about how to design a campaign. Now, again, we are a huge fan of the Go Strong campaign design template, where we start with what our goals and objectives are, where you will hopefully use the SMART framework to create goals and objectives, work our way through to the strategy, which is how we will win our campaigns, and then the tactics, that are the measurable activities that you have planned that speak to the strategy, then what the results are. Measurement is incredibly important, and then the measurement will help us figure out what the impact of that campaign has been on our SMART objectives, and hopefully then from that we can get some insights. So what conclusions can we make about the impact of our tactics, and thus, and finally, we will be revisiting the goals of the campaign. So we go back to the first piece of the design process to see whether the goals themselves were the correct ones for our campaign.
And at the tactical level, we like to employ this framework that really helps clarify the types of activities you'll be employing on digital. And we divide this into what we call the 4 buckets, divided between broad-based public communications activities as a grassroots buckets of taking people from public awareness to action, and then grass tops, identifying individuals who have a role or influence over the decision-making process on the upper left bucket, and then traditional media and how digital helps impact the role of traditional media coverage in a campaign as being critically important. So this will really help you in tactically identifying things that will have impact for your campaign. And when we talk about broad-based public engagement, we like to think about grassroots awareness as a funnel, where you're taking people from just general awareness of a campaign to commitment and ownership, where they understand that there's an urgent issue at hand and that they have a role to play in solving an issue that you are working on. And so the idea is to draw people in so that they are not just being sent a bunch of messages, but you're actually building a community of advocates to mobilize.
The ladder of engagement is also a very, very important component of a digital campaign, where you are working your audience up from the very bottom, where you're first asking them to like, share, or follow you on social action, and then you're hoping that they will sign a petition, and then you work them up to forwarding your campaign and its information to a friend, to ultimately getting them to take offline actions, like hosting an event, organizing an activity on behalf of your campaign. There is a version of this for grass tops and one for grassroots, but essentially the model we like to use is to think of it as working someone up a ladder.
Great. So once you've got your strategy in place, you know who in your organization is going to run with it, and you've got some great tactics planned, and you've got target audiences picked, you can't forget about messaging. And so we have this module up front because it often gets skipped or ignored at the onset of a campaign of, well, what are your key messages for your target audiences that you have picked out? And so this framework really helps to identify in an overt practice of why you're talking about your core issues in the way that you will be. And this is a process that we find you want to be, with everything in this lesson, collaborative, where you're not just off as the communications person or the digital person doing this in a room by yourself, but you're involving the entirety of your organization. And so you really are, with messaging and everything, gathering your team, getting all the input that you need from the lobbying component of your organization, or your executive director, or your traditional media person, or your community outreach person, to develop a digital plan for messaging and the other components that is integrated. And so as you do this lesson, and again, these are the building blocks, you want to be working as a team to build this in an integrated manner. Great. So that is the totality of lesson 1 with the key highlights. We find this to be a critically important lesson for successful digital campaigns, and we hope you enjoy going through the planning process. Thank you.
Thank you.